Hey, this is Mike Diercksen from Proactive, and you're listening to the Building Bite podcast. Tune in as we spotlight our guest, Jennifer Wilkerson, VP of Innovations and Advancement at the National Center for Construction Education and Research, or NCCER. Our episode today is focused on understanding and maximizing the construction labor force pipeline. For more information on this episode and others, please check out the Building Bite at www.buildwithproactive.com.
Welcome to the Building Bite Podcast, a podcast for construction contractors, owners, and insurance professionals where you'll hear from the experts about key topics to help you be successful. I'm Chris Epps, Vice President with Proactive, and I'm joined here with my co-host Mike Diercksen, our Manager of Marketing and Business Development. Our guest today is a thought leader in the construction industry, Ms. Jennifer Wilkerson. Jennifer is the Vice President of Innovations and Advancements at the National Center for Construction Education and Research, or NCCER. Jennifer, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great. How are you?
Glad to have you with us. Doing very well. Mike, how about yourself?
Doing great, Chris. Glad we were able to connect with Jennifer at a recent conference and really excited to dig into this topic today.
Absolutely. Jennifer, thank you again for joining the show today. It's a real pleasure to connect with you. And before we dive into our main topic, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background and experience, and kind of how you got to where you are with NCCER.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I taught high school English for 13 years. My husband, while I was doing all of that, he was a welding apprentice and went to trade school and worked for the Dade County school system as an apprentice. And then started his own business there and eventually opened a welding and fabrication shop in Gainesville, Florida, which is where we are now. And I, after teaching for a while, went and worked for the shop, the fab shop, did office management, plans, material lists, all that kind of thing. In 2009, when the Great Recession was so bad, we figured somebody better go work for someone else so we have some income coming in. And I saw this job for this center that I was like, this is great. It's construction and education all together in one. And came here and applied, ended up being a project manager, and then went to the marketing department, marketing director, and then into innovation and advancement. So I've been here 14 years and absolutely love the mission that we're improving people's lives through construction education. It's a great way to live your life, and the work that you have is meaningful to people.
Yeah, absolutely, Jennifer. It's a great industry. I think a lot of people sometimes say, "Oh, it's a family industry. I fell into it, or I had someone family in there." So we hear about this all the time, and it's a great way to dovetail right into our topic today, which is understanding and maximizing the construction labor force pipeline. So, I mean, Jennifer, like us, you go to these conferences. Everywhere you go, the industry is abuzz with what are we doing about the labor shortage, skilled labor? We're not having enough. We're losing more than we're gaining. What do you think is the main issue facing our industry today from this perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the attrition rate. I mean, the fact is that we have an older workforce, without a doubt. So you can look at all kinds of statistics that tell you whether the average craft professional in the field is 48 years old or 52 years old or whatever they are. But the point is, for every 4 people that are leaving our industry, there's only 1 entering. So the problem is obvious when you really start looking at it from that perspective, is that we have some work to do. We have some work to do. And, we for so long focused and thought, as you said, family, the next generation will just be in here. I'll be able to find workers. Right. And that's not what's happening right now.
It's sort of something we hear all the time with major stakeholders throughout the industry, is sort of questioning where those new workers are going to come from, or, if there's going to be some technological advancement, that helps maybe offset some of that loss. But, when we last spoke, you had actually mentioned community colleges and developmental programs and how they sort of represent some untapped potential to, enhance that pipeline. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about that for our audience?
Sure, absolutely. Here's the thing. Our industry is all about the short game, right? So everybody needs qualified workers today. But what happens is we have to really start thinking why we're in this situation, right? Because we focus so much on today and not tomorrow. And so here we are, played the short game, had a really good run at it, But now we got to start playing the long game, and we got to start looking at other places, and we've got to start thinking about it. And as I said, with the statistics, if we go even further than that, then we're talking, 25% of our workforce is predicted to retire by 2025, which is astonishing. So again, let's talk about what are our resources? Where do we go? And one of the things is that we're just not looking in the right places. We need to start really thinking about community colleges, and we're not. So here's what happened. I'm at a conference a year and a half ago or so. I'm talking to this contractor. They have jobs in 39 states across the United States, and he's literally there to talk about what do we do about this shortage and stuff. And we're at a community college conference, and I'm like, well, do you recruit out of the community colleges instead of just having your own workforce traveling where you go? Do you ever look at the local community colleges for the places that you have projects? And he got on the phone and called their recruiters, and he's like, are you guys recruiting from the community colleges? And the answer was no, that they weren't. They weren't even recruiting from the community colleges, because we're in that mindset. If you're a self-performing company, you have this group of employees that are your craft professionals that are going to these jobs, and you just tap in and out of the people that have worked for you in the past. Hey, I got a job starting. We're going to be 18 months in Montana, or we've got something starting in North Carolina. So we're just going to staff up and get you there. And what I always talk about, how about a little foresight in that? Where are our projects? What's upcoming? And let's go to the local community colleges and start looking, especially when we have young people that are saying they don't want to travel. It used to be you went wherever you needed to go. And now we have a lot of people that are like, I don't know if I want to travel that much. And we hear that all the time, contractors running into that. So the answer is decide where you're going, figure out where your projects are, and tap into that local talent. And community colleges, listen, I'm going to tell you, they're about local employment. They're about helping their communities. They got away from it for a little while, but I'll tell you what, as terrible as COVID was, it woke a lot of people up to, we have to really get back to what we were supposed to be doing. And that was skilling up our local communities, making them employable, working with local employers to do that, finding out what they need. And they're on top of it right now. We work with just under 500 community colleges, and I'm telling you, the programs and the people they are putting out for construction are top notch.
And probably coming out as, I would imagine, better adopters of technology too, coming directly out of college and having that immediate training and all those resources available to them. And, so often our industry, I think this is changing, or maybe even has changed, but for a long time, construction has just been, I would say, targeted as sort of a slow adopter of technology, or slow to change in that regard. Is there anything else, aside from tapping that part of the workforce coming out of community college, is there anything else that we can kind of do to get out of that line of thinking of that sort of slow to change, slow to adopt technology that might help situationally with what you're seeing?
Absolutely. So I would say a couple things. There's even a longer game. There's even a more planning, because you start looking at our high schools. And I hear all the time that contractors tell me, well, shop class is dead. And I'm here to tell you, shop class is not dead. There are 226,000 high school students concentrating in the architecture and construction cluster right now in high schools. Now, that can be drafting, that can be electrical, that can be welding. It can be a myriad of things that they're doing it. They're in it. The sad thing is that only 20 to 22% of them are either continuing with their construction education after high school, or not going into the industry. And we're like, why aren't we getting 226,000? This would help a lot. Why aren't we getting them? And
right.
And we hear that the high schools tell us, we don't really know who to connect with. We don't know which contractors are willing to work with high schools. And that's alarming to me, that that we have projects all over the United States, and we're not thinking about, not only going to our community colleges, but going to our high schools. And you want to talk about technology and stuff. These students, we've got drones now. We got virtual design and construction. We have all of this going on. Let's get these students interested. Let's get in those schools. Let's re-engage with these students, and let's talk about all these fantastic opportunities in our industry. We could really change not only the the concern that we have about the number of people, but the diversity of people that get interested in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up, my dad worked for Turner in the construction industry, and I just think that maybe some people have this mindset of, well, if you work in construction, you're wearing a hard hat and you're laying brick and mortar, and it's not the case anymore. There is so much technology being brought into this. There's a multitude of different pools of people that are now interested in this. And so to that point, Jennifer, we had last spoke, you mentioned another group that you thought was underrepresented, and you're trying to work on that and engaging women in construction. And I understand you even put together like a peer group to better understand, hey, what appealed to you? What can we do differently to appeal to more people? Could you maybe explain to us a little bit about that group and how you're trying to grow that presence in the workforce?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, near and dear to my heart. So we did a research project, and we went on site and interviewed 176 tradeswomen in the trades. We wanted to know, what do we have to do? Because people throw the number around all the time about, well, we're climbing, it's still not good. There's 11% of the construction industry is women. But if you go to the field side, it's less than 4%. You're talking about who is building it in the field. So we wanted to go there, and we didn't want to just talk about numbers. We wanted to find out why and what do we do about it. And so these women really gave us great insights. So our research is called In Her Own Words, Improving Project Outcomes. And we looked at it several different ways. We wanted to know, what are those unique qualities that women bring to the project site that helps you improve your project outcomes? And what we found out, not only from the women, but from their supervisors, is a few things that probably won't be a surprise. Number one, women are super team focused. They are really about everyone doing well. It's just natural. It comes to women, whatever you want to think about, whether it's motherly instincts or it's just that natural born cheerleader or whatever it is, they care that everybody does well on a team. And I use this example all the time. Hate to say it, but listen, my husband's been a welder since 1988. And I guarantee you, on the project sites he's been on, he has never walked up to another man and said, "Is everything okay today? I noticed something was off." It's just, and you don't know, but you know what women do? Women see that. Women go, "Hey, what's up today? What's going on?" And what happened was there was Construction Industry Institute did their own research years ago. It wasn't about women in construction, but one of their questions was asking men to rate themselves on productivity, quality, safety. And the men that rated themselves the highest had at least one woman on their crew. This correlates direct. So we dug into that. We're like, why? And it came back to this. It's just this kind of everyone having a caring person, having somebody that's trying to make sure everybody's okay. And at a time when mental health is a concern in our industry, this is really important. It is a safety issue. It's that whole psychological safety issue of our industry, because we have hard work. We have great work that contributes amazingly to society, but we're traveling, we're away from our families, we're doing a lot of things, and we need to support. And it's just natural. I think it just comes to women. Another really interesting thing, no surprise, women pay a lot of attention to detail and how they do things. We may not have the brute strength or the experience in the industry, but you want to know what we do really well? We follow directions. So what we found out from a lot of the supervisors was that women followed the prescribed design process exactly to the T. They used the technology that was made there to help with injuries and stuff. They did it because that's what we do. And I use the example all the time. We buy something at my house and my husband goes to put it together and I've got the directions and I'm like, okay, he's over there putting it together going, don't read the directions to me. And at some point, inevitably, he's like, wait, what happened here? A lot of times he can put it together, but sometimes, and I'm like, if you would let me look at the direction. So I think the beautiful thing is women bring some qualities to our industry that really do, we talk about the diverse population in industries and people think, well, it's just about the color of your skin or it's just about your background or it's not. It's about the diversity of thought because we are different and we bring things together and it's better. We build better together. We build buildings and skyscrapers and bridges and, better together. So those are the main things really as far as qualities. I won't go into too much, but obviously there's things that we need to fix. 51% of the population are women. So one of the ways we're going to fix this is to include them. And we do have to take in consideration there are differences. They are still the primary caregiver at home for children and for elderly parents. And so how do we start thinking about accommodations for that? Do we as an industry try to jump ahead and start thinking, are there shifts? Does someone come in at 6 to 3? Do some people come in? Does it have to be 7:30 to 6:30 every day? I mean, how much more people would you attract in general, men and women, if you started doing some flexibility in schedules, if you started thinking about, okay, how do we, there's a lot of incredible groups out there that help set up early pickup and drop off and stuff right from project sites. They're out there, they're doing it. And contractors can get childcare credits and stuff, benefits by providing this to their employees. So there's a lot of things there. PTO, we found that office staff get PTO, but field staff don't get PTO. Seriously? Do you think that the people in the field deserve less than what the people in the office deserve? So I could go on forever about this topic. I know we don't have forever. So I would just say, check out the research. There's a lot of things we found that were very easy to implement. There are things that may take longer, but there's some things in there that these women shared with us that were like, oh, that totally makes sense. We should absolutely do that. And even have some contractors that have reached out to us, and we're going to do some pilots with them about, we implemented these 3 things. Did it make a difference in recruiting and retaining women?
That's awesome. And you know what? The one thing that jumped out to me there is you're talking about scheduling and just providing flexibility. COVID was rough. I don't think anyone would say they had a good time. But one thing it did do is it forced us to get creative, right? We had to work from home. We had to redefine normal. And I think that that's something, like you're saying, continue that, right? Continue to redefine normal. What could that be? What could that look like? So great points there, Jennifer. And as we start to move towards the conclusion of this conversation today, look, you mentioned it. You could go on forever. You've got such a wealth of knowledge here in this industry and this educational component of how to get people engaged. We did cover a lot of ground today, but what is something that maybe we didn't get to ask you that we should have asked you? What's something that's kind of on the top of your mind that you think we should really hit on?
I think training. Here's the thing. Yes, it's great for people to mentor people in the field and to do that and to get out there and get your hands on it and stuff. But people today are looking for career pathways. They want to know, how do I better myself? Show me something there. And we have to get involved in training. So whether that is through your community college, whether it's through an association, whether it's through in-house training, train your people. We get better quality, we get better productivity, we get better safety. It's known facts across the board with training. But I think also what that does is show your commitment to your people. And that's what people want to know. Well, I do this, and we heard it across the board, not only with the women, but we've heard this in surveys and things we've done through the years. And we had a lot of employees recently, male employees, tell us, like, I feel more comfortable asking questions when there's training there. Like when someone starts explaining things to me and I learn more about it, then I'm even more curious and I want to do even better for it. But if they don't have anything and you're just going to throw them out there in the field and expect them to learn by just putting their hands on things, we're crazy. And then we have contractors that go, yeah, but what if I invest in this training and they leave? And I'm like, and this has been said for years, it's not mine. What if you don't invest and they stay with your company? I mean, that's even a bigger risk that you have. So I would say training. I would say as an industry, we have to commit to training our people.
Jennifer, a great discussion thus far, although I do feel personally injured by your furniture assembly example. I feel like a lot of IKEA purchases with my wife, and she's going to watch this episode and be like, see, I told you.
Come into the industry.
She is already an engineer, so I will give her that. But to your point, follows instructions a lot better than I do. There's absolutely no doubt. But before we go, we always like to leave our audience with 3 takeaways from our episode. And I guess given our discussion thus far, what do you think those should be?
I think it should be shop class isn't dead, re-engage, find your local high school. That is something that's really important. The pendulum has swung back the other way. I promise you, career tech ed, we're seeing it across the board in high schools and stuff. And I would say, the other thing is just carpe diem. It's now. Like, we can't wait. We can't wait 5 more years, 10 more years, because we're going to be talking about the same thing. This industry has been talking about workforce shortages for 30 years, and here we are still doing it. And so when I tell people, really, I promise you, the schools are listening now. The parents are listening now. We have college debt just it's unbelievable. And people are asking themselves, where do I put, my time? Where do I get the best bang for my buck? And I'm telling you, construction is a place to do it. Whether you do get a degree, great. There's a lot of degrees that you can get in construction and do 4 years, and you can be an engineer, you can be an architect, you can be so many things that we absolutely need. But if that's not your thing, there's a lot of other options. And so I just think that's what we just need to talk about right now. And we need to explain it, and we need to shout it from the rooftops.
Absolutely. Jennifer, what about an action item, right? So if our listeners, keeping in mind our stakeholders, so people that are tuning in, generally speaking, risk managers, carriers, brokers, GCs, if this is resonating with them, they're going, okay, this makes so much sense. Where do I start? What's that first step that you would recommend that they do?
I think, gap analysis is great for everyone, like assess your current employees and stuff, find out who you have, not only in terms of skills, knowledge, and everything like that, but why they chose you as a company, why they're with you, because that'll give you it gives us a lot of insight in our research to really ask those questions to the women that we interviewed. You guys tell us. And then we can capitalize on what our employees, what our people are telling us so that we can do that. And then I would say, make a recruitment and retention plan. I think a lot of companies have that today already, but go back and look at that plan and ask yourself, are we focusing on the right groups? Who do we need to look at? Let's evaluate that plan. And then finally, I would just say, do some recon. Find out, if you do have projects, if you do have, you're trying to get in some different states, you're doing different things, really go out there and do some recon and find out what workforce is available to you with the skills and knowledge that you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's a fairly novel concept, and I love the passion that you bring to the subject, Jennifer, because it's like most other industries that have reverse engineered that, going back to find people to feed into that industry, whereas it seems like, construction forever, particularly for field labor and staff, it's like just kind of wait for people to stumble into it seems. And so very, very novel concept. It seems that every other industry maybe beat us to the punch there. Given that, sort of professionally, what is it that keeps you up at night about that process in general that you're currently working on?
I think it is just that concern that we're going to miss a huge opportunity. I worry about that. I worry about we're not doing enough. I worry about that contractors have in the past had experiences with high school, and they were like, they just wanted money for this and they just wanted that. And so I hope that people give it another shot. But it does concern me that we will miss this big opportunity where we have the general public really kind of going out there now and reevaluating careers and looking at that. There was a survey, I think it was YPulse or one of them that did it, and they asked students that had graduated from high school different questions, and 74% of them said, I wish I had known about all of my career options before I graduated from high school. So it's just, my concern is missed opportunities.
Yeah, I felt that way coming out of college. Definitely going back to high school, it's like and even now, there's so many doors open and there's so many new facets of construction that, there's just not. I feel like younger kids, especially coming out of high school, just don't have a full window into what's available.
Right.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Certainly, I took wood shop in high school my senior year. It's my favorite class. I loved it. Made some cool things, some things that I still have to this day. But I never knew that there was anywhere to go with that. I just thought it was honestly.
I'm having a good time.
I was getting out of Spanish class. Really, I told my mom, I was like, I can't speak Spanish, Mom. So I think I gotta do wood shop. So it's just understanding, like you said, the opportunities available to you is such an important thing. So maybe on the flip side of that, then, Jennifer, what's the reason to be optimistic, right? You mentioned that why pulse, and kind of how they don't know, so maybe just illuminating that. But what do you think is the optimism towards our industry right now?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot. I think, you guys have talked about the technology that we see in it that will be super appealing to young people, all the careers that we have right now in construction. I mean, we're booming, right? Like the reason that the labor shortage is so important is just because infrastructure bills and the CHIP Act and so many things are going on that it's just like there is so much opportunity. So I love that. I do see this topic is being talked exactly what you guys are doing, right? You're inviting people on to talk about workforce. That's what we need to do. I see it, as you said, Mike, we were at a conference together. It was one of the big things people were talking about. We are really trying to bring this to light with everybody. I think the other thing that I'll mention, talking about some statistics, but there was a Gallup poll too, and it was really interesting. Adults ages 18 to 29 that view college education as very important, is how they put it, has dropped from 74% to 41%. Now, I don't want to in any way diminish what college is, but my point there is college isn't for everyone. And we've sat there for years and told our whole population is the only way to be successful is to go to college. That's the only way to be successful. And what I think we see with these kind of numbers is, again, my hope is, the reason I'm optimistic is because I think people are opening their eyes that, yeah, great. This child of mine, they're going to go to a 4-year degree and they should absolutely do it in the career they want to go in. It's perfect for them. But they're also going, but this child of mine, maybe they're not going to follow that path. And you know what? They're going to be successful too. They're going to be successful too. And I need to be proud of them too. And there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm very optimistic is what I'm seeing.
Right. It's almost two sides of the same coin, right? The opportunity to miss the boat still means there's a boat to catch, right? Yeah. So we can definitely work towards doing that. So Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We always like to end our question. This is Building Bite. That's building insurance technologies with the experts. You're our expert today. So you're down in Florida. What are you taking the bite out of today? Where's the local spot for the best meal?
Okay, so there's a lot of fabulous restaurants, but one thing we're known for in Alachua and High Springs, so right outside of Gainesville, where the UF Gators are, it's called Bev's Better Burgers. And there is not a better burger than these two little local drive-thrus that are just absolutely, you can go there and get a double and some fries or some corn nuggets on the side, and it will absolutely make your day.
Definitely on my list.
Yep, fantastic. We get down to that part of the world fairly often, so we will definitely have to check it out. Jennifer, thank you again for chatting with us today. We really appreciate your time and the message. If our listeners want to hook up with you afterwards, where can they find you? LinkedIn, online, all your contact info.
Sure, absolutely. Any of our websites for NCCER, it's real easy. It's literally nccer.org, or our recruitment arm is buildyourfuture.org, so byf.org. But for me, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So Jen G. Wilkerson, just all one, just kind of my initials there. So, or look, people can email me if they're interested in workforce and there's something we can do to help them. jwilkerson@nccr.org. Reach out, tell us what's going on, and maybe we can help you with your workforce.
Fantastic. I know we've got a lot of general contractor listeners, so if they're paying attention, I expect you might get a few calls and emails after this. But thank you again for joining us. Definitely, we really appreciate your time and look forward to having you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Building Bite. This podcast has been brought to you by Proactive. Check us out on thebuildingbite.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media for all future The Building Bite news and updates. You can also find us on your favorite apps, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Amazon. If you have ideas for episode topics that we should cover on the show, or you know somebody who would be a perfect guest, let us know at connect@thebuildingbite.com.